This is Cup Car 2.0, my most immersive sim rig build yet. And this is the Insta360 Ace Pro 2, the most immersive action camera I've found to film Cup Car 2.0. And this is the ever lost face mask that I used to mount it to. Now, since I got the Insta360, I've had quite a few questions about both filming modes on the Insta360 and how I set up my ambient lighting system and how I make POV videos look so realistic. Now I'll get to ambient lighting and the Insta360 in just a minute, but first I want to point out that camera position is key for proper POV video, and having the camera positioned just below my eyes makes it feel really natural, whereas putting a camera above your head can actually make it feel like the camera is actually above your head, and it just kind of changes the perspective a bit. So this ever lost face mask that I 3D printed actually makes a huge difference. Now, this isn't a design I made. I don't share the file for this in my share files, but I will provide a link in the description if you guys are interested. You guys can go check out Everlost and see what cool designs he has. Now, on the other hand, all the 3D prints that you see on the rig to make it look immersive and realistic are designs that I did, and they are available through the channel membership. So all you have to do is join the membership to get access to them, and you can access all the STL files that I've ever designed. Now let's talk about the ambient lighting for a minute. For those of you who aren't familiar with the channel, I run 4 Govee light bars and 3 custom light boxes in order to create a realistic lighting scenario inside the rig. All of them are driven by SimHub using screen grabs from the actual game so that the lighting matches sun direction and looks super immersive. Today I'm going to show you guys how I set that up. Now you guys have asked me quite a few questions about my ambient light system, and before I get into that too far, I just want to point out, first off, you'll notice that my wallpaper is actually my sim rig, and I actually have 3 different wallpapers. So one's high light, one's low light, and one's medium light. So that way I can see how the lights are going to react in the light, dark, and in the medium area. So I'll cycle between those while tuning. Now over on the actual sim hub, you guys can see, let me minimize some of this so that that's cleaner. You guys can see I have 2 grab points over here at the mirror because the sun coming this way will illuminate that spot and make my far left light get brighter so that the sun direction feels natural. Over on the right side, you'll notice there's a few on the A-frame. Those are for the right light. And that's just so that as the sun travels around the car, the light actually comes from the correct direction. And then in the middle, guess I can't really get it in there. In the middle though, you guys will see it's lined all the way across the dash for all of the middle lighting. And when you look at how small the grids are, my grab points, I'm using 61 rows and 85 columns to make sure I get small grab points so that the lighting isn't going too many different directions, and that way it's hyper focused for each individual grab point. Now, that's basically how I have this set up, and you guys can just see there are a couple grab points down here on the lower dash, and the whole purpose behind that is just so that if the sun's shining over my left shoulder, then I get a little bit of brightness on my hands. That, like, basically I just want sun direction and travel to feel natural all the way around the car. Now, I also have 3 custom light boxes set up, and you guys can see here, you can see those grab points are right in the middle of the dash there, and there's only 6 of them. Despite having about 500 LEDs, I keep the grab points relatively minimal. I just did that into the code so that it only works in about 4 different sections, maybe 5. And those lights only come on in high light situations. So over here in the settings, you guys can see luminosity gamma correction is at 2.23. and color gamma correction is at 2.24. So that's relatively high when you compare to the Govee lights that I have at 0.87 and 0.83. That means that those lights are not going to kick on unless something really bright hits the screen, and then it'll force them on. That way the lighting feels natural inside the cab, and only when the sun is directly blasted in my face do those lights kick on. Now you could use this theory with less lights and just hyper focus them differently and still get a pretty natural lighting effect. Because I'm running a POV camera, I just wanted it to be super effective. And you guys will notice as we get into the Insta360 POV footage, how effective this really is when going around corners with the sun blasting in your face. It works really well, and I'm actually really happy with how this has come out. Now, for those of you that have experience trying to film sim racing POV footage, you know that low lighting is always one of the biggest challenges. And I've been using the GoPro 13 for the last year and a half or so, and one of the biggest problems is it just doesn't do well in low light. It's great outdoors, I love the camera, but not for sim racing. And with all this work going into making a super immersive sim rig and dialing in the ambient lighting, I needed something that could perform a bit better, and that's how I ended up with the Ace Pro 2. And I know I'm not the only one that struggled with this, and that's why I made this video and wanted to show you guys some comparisons of different things the camera can do and how it performs at different fields of view, in different filming modes, and with different stabilization. The Ace Pro 2 with no modifications offers 5 different fields of view, 4 levels of stabilization, 2 ideal shooting modes, and several filters. So let's start by comparing the 5 fields of view and see which ones actually work for sim racing POV. On the tightest end of the viewing spectrum, you have linear mode and D-warp. You'll notice both feel a little bit zoomed in and a bit too tight to offer an immersive POV viewing experience. The image also looks a bit squished in both cases, leaving the wheel looking a bit tall and oddly misshapen. The other 3 views offer a much more dynamic experience, but with Mega, I feel like the wheel is still a little bit squished, and the overall view still feels a bit unnatural in the Cup Car rig. If you really want immersive POV, Ultra and Action are where it's at with this camera. Ultra offers a similar view to Mega, but without making it feel like the rig's imploding on itself. In my opinion, it looks pretty natural, and it delivers a relatively believable field of view, but it still carries a slight zoomed feel. And that leaves Action, which is definitely my top pick for sim racing POV. You get a nicely proportioned image without the squishing or zoomed effect, motion around the rig feels clean, and it feels like you're really seeing the rig through the driver's eyes. It's nice to have the options, but I'm pretty sure for horizontal shooting, Action will be the only one I need. Now each of those videos I just shared were filmed in standard video mode with no stabilization. Now for those with low light or preferring a brighter cockpit effect, there's also pure mode, which increases low light performance more, but can also be quite taxing on the camera. For these examples, I took 3 separate videos in pure mode. The first is filmed with low stabilization and no other changes. The second's filmed with standard stabilization and no other changes. And the third is filmed with heavy stabilization, and I added a vivid filter as opposed to the flat or standard filters used in the other clips. Because I want all these shooting modes to be represented as is, there's no editing or color tuning done on these clips. This is the raw footage as it was recorded, and if you ask me, I think this is hands down the best action camera I've used on the rig so far. So having tested all these different filming modes and fields of view and everything, I could definitely say that the Action field of view is what I'm going to use. As far as stabilization goes, I felt like it felt more natural with it off. It wasn't overly shaky or out of control, and I just overall think that leaving the stabilization off makes the most sense. But where I'm really torn is the difference between standard video mode and pure mode. Obviously, pure mode brings a lot more light into the sensor, and it just seems to be a little bit brighter and more vibrant. But at the same time, the standard mode looks a little more natural. So let me know in the comments which one you guys think is better. So as you guys will notice, in standard video mode, with no lighting added to the cockpit, it's still able to pick up some detail. And when I go over to pure mode, you can actually get vibrant colors from the nets. You can see the floorboard really well. Like the amount of lighting this camera is getting without having any in the cockpit is pretty insane. Obviously it's going to take some from the monitors, but most cameras can't deliver this level of detail, even with the lights turned up quite a bit. Now, as I mentioned earlier, none of the POV footage in this video has been altered in any way, shape, or form. It's exactly the way it was filmed, other than the fact that I filmed it at 4K and had to cut it down to 1080p because I just don't have all the resources I need to be able to film full videos at 4K yet. And just in case there's any question of it, I did my research and I went and bought the Ace Pro 2. It wasn't sent to me. It wasn't something that they gave me to promote. I'm not here to hype up a camera for sales purposes. Like, I'm legitimately sharing this because I've struggled with POV footage for years, and this is the solution I found that finally worked. Now, as far as the Cup Car 2.0 build goes, it's getting pretty close to done. There's some final details, some trim pieces, things like that I'm looking forward to getting done over the next week or so and sharing with you guys. Of course, I still got to figure out the solution to the new racing wheel. And then I'm really looking forward to hopefully having this thing done in time for the new iRacing season so that I could really just focus on racing for a season before I start planning out the Huracan build. If you guys haven't been following the build, make sure you hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. And if you guys want to help support the build and the channel, you can check out the description for affiliate links if you're in the market for anything sim racing related. Next week, hopefully I'll have some technical stuff worked out, including whatever was going on with the TVs back here throughout this video. and we'll be able to get back into the Cup car build. Until then, I'll see you guys out on the track.